Alhamdulillah. Alhamdulillahi wa kafa. Wassalatu wassalamu ala man la nabiyya ba'dah wa ba'd. Alhamdulillah. We are back at the text, mashallah, in which we are looking at the clarification of the methodology of Imam Ahmed in creed and propagation. So alhamdulillah, it is the 22nd of Jumad al-Akhirah, 1442, on a Friday. So we're going to be picking up on where we left off last time in the second objective, or chapter 2, under the first unit. And it was talking about the luminaries, the Hanbalis, and the lands that they governed over and govern over. So we're going to be discussing this today with Shaikh Mustafa Hamdu Ulayyan. He's going to start to give us details, inshallah. And we're going to start where he says, quote, آفاق الحنابلة وأوطانهم, the far-reaching influence of the Hanbalis and the lands that their governance is found in. تكون المذهب الحنبلي في بغداد محل مولد الإمام أحمد سنة 64 و100 ووفاته فيها سنة 41 و200 وعنه انتشر في أنحاء العراق ولم ينتشر خارج العراق إلا في القرن الرابع فيما بعد إذ خرج المذهب إلى الشام وهو قاعدة الحنابلة الثانية في فلسطين وأعمالها رامين وجنين ومرداء وقصبتها نابلس وطول كرم من قرى نابلس ومن عملها أيضا شويكة والسفارين وكفر لبد وكفر قدوم وحجة وطرابلس وفي دمشق وما حولها وبعل بكة وما حولها. The Hanbali madhab was documented and systematized in Baghdad and spanned from the birth of the Imam Ahmed in 164 Hijri and his death to 241 Hijri. And it's from here that it spread throughout Iraq, but it did not leave outside of Iraq except in the 4th century. So once that came, the madhab went to Sham, and it was the second headquarters of the Hanbali madhab. It was in Palestine, and in its districts of Ramin, Jenin, Marda, and the linchpin of all this was Nablus and Tul Karam, from the surrounding villages around Nablus. And from its districts as well includes Shawaika, Safarin, Kafr Lubad, Kafr Qaddum, Hajja, Tarablus, and in Damascus and around that area, as well as Ba'alabek in the Lebanon and what's around that area. Close quote. Now, this is a huge span of area that I want to just touch on very briefly. So, Iraq we're familiar with. The reach of it into Sham and Palestine we want to discuss. So, Philistine and its surrounding areas. And by Philistine, we mean the West Bank, Gaza, and all of what we see as Jordan and Israel today. And so districts included within Philistine include Ramin, and this is where the famous Ibn Muflih al-Maqdisi, rahimahumullah, family is from. They're from that area called Ramin. Jenin is where the famous Musa al-Ahmed, rahimahullah, is from. Marda is where the famous Imam Alauddin al-Mardawi, who died 885 Hijri, the big Imam and Alim, is from there. And Nablus proper is where all these other areas are around their unincorporated part of Nablus. Although they're not Nablus, they're sort of incorporated under the umbrella. Then you have Tulkaram. Tulkaram is also from around Nablus, and this is where the great Imam Mar'i bin Yusuf al-Karmi, who died 1033, also is from. Then you have Shawaika, which is where Imam Ahmed Ash-Shawaiki, who was one of the great Maraji' who died, if memory serves me correct, 949 Hijri. Then you have Safarin, where the great Imam Muhammad Ahmed al-Safarini is from, who died 1189. Kafar Lubad, this is where the great Abdul Ghani ibn Yasin al-Lubadi, rahimahullah, who died 1319, who wrote his classic Hashya on the Dalil al-Talib. He is also from this area. Kafar Qaddum, and who cannot discuss Kafar Qaddum, where you have Ubaid, Isa ibn Ubaid al-Qaddumi, rahimahullah, one of the outstanding students of Imam al-Safarini from Kafar Qaddum. Then you have Imam Abdullah Sufyan al-Qaddumi, rahimahullah, who died 1331. Musa ibn Isa al-Qaddumi, rahimahullah, who died 1336. And a host of other great Qaddumi family members. Then you have Hajja, or sometimes called Hijjah, right? And Hijjah is the place where Imam Musa ibn Ahmed al-Hajjawi is from. MashaAllah, the great alim who died 968. He is the summarizer of Al-Muqni', the author of Al-Iqna', as well as the commentator on the Manzuma in Adab. Tremendous scholar. Tarablus, big scholars have come from there. Damascus and the area around there. Ba'alabak. And by Ba'alabak, you have great imams like Imam Asbasalar, who died 774, if memory serves me correct. He wrote At-Tasheel fil Fiqh, as well as Abdullah al-Ba'ali, Abdul Rahman al-Ba'ali, and a host of other scholars who wrote different kutub. So tremendous scholars, tremendous. So we return back to the words of the Shaykh, rahimahullah. He says, quote, وكانت عواصم قوته وانتشاره في حقب زمنية متتابعة وفي بغداد أولا ثم في الشام في القدس ونابلس وطول كرم ودمشق وأعمالها ثم صار له شأن في مصر بالقاهرة ثم تحولت قاعدته العريضة في نجد قلب جزيرة العرب منذ القرن 11 تقريبا حتى الآن. وفي تعليق المدخل المفصل المجلد الأول الصفحة 98 و400. And so, the different capitals drew their strength as it spread. And its spread was concurrent throughout many different times. In Baghdad, firstly. Then it made its way to Sham. Then Jerusalem. Then Nablus. Then Tulkaram. Then Damascus and its districts. Then it became a matter that was known about in Egypt and in Al-Qahira, Cairo. Then its foundational capital spread out to Najd, and Najd is the interior heart of Arabia, and it remained to be the case since the 11th century of the Hijrah, approximately up until now. Close quote. Now, what this is referring to is the actual Jazeera turning into the majority Hanabila by that time. So by that time, that was the majority of what it was. The Hanabila had always been a huge body. Ever since Imam Malik's students left after his death, there were a large body of students that were there. In the time of Imam Ahmed rahimahullah and his students, there were even some of the people of the Najd that had come wearing their finest garments, their black garments, to learn fiqh. So there's a long history that goes back. But they became majority during that time, and their strength went from one strength to another strength, and it became the capital of that area. Now, that being said, they still have the maraji' that they refer to are in Sham and Egypt or Iraq. That's the source. The kutub that they use are from those sources. But it came to be a well-known place where this was the majority, and that was established. So you have people such as Ahmad ibn Atwa, Sulaiman ibn Ali al-Musharraf, Ahmad al-Ushayqiri, and many other such figures. You can't go through there without discussing Shaykh Sulaiman Abdul Wahab, Abdul Wahab ibn Sulaiman, right? You cannot discuss this without discussing these people. Ibrahim ibn Dawayan, who died 1353. Shaykh Sulaiman Abdul Wahab died 1209. Abdul Wahab ibn Sulaiman died 1153. Let's see, Shaykh Sulaiman ibn Ali al-Musharraf died 1079. Then you also have Shaykh ibn Abdul Malik ibn Dahesh. He died not long ago. So you have many different alims. Abdullah Muhammad al-Khulayfi, who died 1414. Right. So you have a panel of scholars throughout history that, in spite of the difficulties that that peninsula has gone through, there is still a wonderful amount of scholarship that continues there. Then you have, the Sheikh goes on to say, أين ينتشر المذهب اليوم? So where has the madhab spread to up until today? ينتشر المذهب في هذا العصر في بعض القرى المحيطة بدمشق مثل دوما والضمير ورحيبة وفي فلسطين كقرى نابلس وطول كرم، وفي الحجاز والأحساء ونجد وبعض الإمارات الخليج العربي كالكويت والشارقة ورأس الخيمة وقطر. واليوم يأخذ بفقه الإمام أحمد وعقيدته جماعات جهاديات في مصر والعراق والشام وفي هذا القرن الخامس عشر الهجري، إلا أنهم بحاجة إلى تفقه في العلوم في علوم الشرعية وأخذها عن شيوخها، فإن الجهاد بغير علم إفساد في الأرض والله لا يحب الفساد. وفي الأثر لا يزال الناس بخير ما أخذوا العلم عن أكابرهم، وأكثر المتصدرين اليوم في ساحات القتال ولا شاشات التلفاز من الأصاغر المتنطعين إسنادا وفهما، ولذلك كثرة الفتن. The madhab has spread in this current age and reaches to the cities and boundaries around Damascus, such as Duma, Dumayr, Ruhayba. It is in Palestine, in the environs of Nablus, Tulkarm. It is in the Hijaz. It is in Al-Ahsa. It is in the Najd. It is in some of the Emirates in the Persian Gulf or the Arab Gulf. Like examples include Kuwait, Shariqa or Sharjah, Ras Al Khaimah, and also it is in Qatar. Today, the fiqh of the Imam Ahmed, his creed, and his fiqh have been taken up by jama'at of jihad in Egypt and Iraq, as well as Sham, in this 15th century of Hijri. The only issue is that the people taking this up are in need of understanding in the science of the revealed law and taking them from their sheikhs, because jihad without knowledge is a source for corruption in the earth, and Allah does not love corruption. There is the well-known narrative, people are always in good as long as they take knowledge from their senior elders. Most of those who today can be seen moving around to fight and upon the television screens are from the youth that are fanatical, that are lacking both transmission and understanding. And it's due to this that tribulations have become numerous. Close quote. Now we see the wisdom here of what the Sheikh has said. So let's take a walk through some of this. So you have, in terms of the knowledge, the spread of the school, you have the school being in Sham, the northernmost portions in Sham where it governs. You also have Duma, Dumayr and Ruhayba, which are in that northern portion. It is in Palestine, which is Nablus, which is not just the city of Nablus, but it's like a province or a governorate. Karam Governorate. It is in the Hijaz. It is in Al-Ahsa. It is in the Najd. And also out of the 7 Emirates, some say there's 5 Emirates, some say 7, right? It is in those Emirates where it's governed with. It's in Kuwait, where it, along with the Malikis, is the dominant one. Shariqa, it is dominant. Ras al-Khayma is dominant in Qatar. In fact, one of the major commentators on Arad al-Murbi in this current age is Sheikh, one of the sons of one of the Marja people from Qatar, who's related to Sheikh Abdul Aziz ibn Mani', who did the Mukhtasar and then commentary with Shatti, Sheikh Hassan al-Shatti, on the Safadini i'tiqad, because at the time what was happening is that there were some Ash'ari extreme fanatics that had come there and said that the attributes are majaz and there's no haqiq or wujud to them, and they were ultimately defeated, and this text was rallied around. And when you look at Kuwait, you have big ulama like Sheikh Abdullah al-Nuri, who's mentioned on the Milah site. You have Sheikh Abdullah al-Dahyan, who's one who wrote to, there was a lot of correspondence between him and the big Sheikh Abdul Qadir ibn Badran al-Dumi. Shariqa, that's where Sheikh Muhammad Mukhtar Mayaba and the big Hanbali Sheikh, one of the big Hanbali Sheikhs related to Sheikh Ibn Dahyan, where they brought about the ruling regarding using the pig aorta for transplant for the human aorta to keep people alive, and that later gave way to the synthetic aorta. We have the Malikis and the Hanbalis to thank for that. Then you have Ras al-Khayma, ulama from there. Qatar, as we discussed, right? Then the Sheikh mentioned jama'at of jihad in Egypt and Iraq. He's making reference to that, not just in this day and age, but also to other times, because a lot of the people that went to Afghanistan, the first people to pass fatwa on Afghanistan and places like that, that the Muslims have a right for self-defense, were the scholars of the school of Imam Ahmed. And so he makes reference to that. Now, some of the youth that are involved, some of the people that are involved, because they've not done enough of the knowledge and they've not acted by enough of the knowledge, some of them have acted in a way that was not right. And then the Sheikh went on to say that jihad without knowledge is corruption, and Allah does not love corruption. And that's why we see most of the things that are happening today with the killings that we see on the television screens from the fanatical youth, is because they're without transmission and without understanding, right? So that's what he's saying. But he mentions that a lot of your jihad movements, especially, for example, Sheikh Abdul Majid and Abdul Qadir ibn Badran, were absolutely crucial in trying to drive the French back from Sham when they arrived. Although there was interference from Muhammad Zahid al-Kawthari, the big Hanafi sheikh, who accused them both of being mujassima, which is takfir, which endangered their lives, and almost set back the jihad movement against the invaders. No one really knows why he chose at such a crucial time to decide to endanger the lives of 2 huge mujahids and 2 major Hanbali scholars. No one's really sure why he did this. We can talk about why we think he did this, but we don't know for sure why he would decide to do something like this at such a crucial point at that time in the Ummah, especially in the area of what we know as the Middle East and Sham, that he would actually get in the way and hinder the striving and the fighting that the believers were doing. Only Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows. This is also the same time that a friend of his said that, a friend of Muhammad Zahid al-Kawthari mentioned that we should change the orthography of the Quran to fit today's spellings in Arabic, that we should actually change the orthography the way that it's written. And this was viciously beaten down by Sheikh Muhammad Jamil Al-Shatti. And this came about because of the position of Kawthari and others, that the Quran that we have in our hands is actually not the speech of Allah, it's the meanings behind it. So the actual khat that's there in the orthography, that's not the speech of Allah. It's only the meanings, the kalam nafsi that's behind it. So Imam Muhammad Jamil Ash-Shatti wrote his text defending the very orthography that goes back to Uthman. So this was a very important time. Izzuddin al-Qassam, who was also another big Hanbali sheikh who was related to Sheikh Musa al-Ahmed. They were both big Hanbali mujahids in that time who were fighting against the process that had been brought about by Theodore Herzl of political Zionism and the building of the State of Israel. So you'll find that the people that are upon the school of Imam Ahmed are always actively involved in opposition to the government. In Iraq, there was the uprising against the Americans as well as Salafiyah that began the Sahwa, the awakening, in which Muslim brothers had just decided after a van was detonated in front of the masjid of Shaykh al-Qadir Jilani that they would no longer sit by idly. And it was Sheikh Yasin ibn Jassim al-Turki, the big Hanbali sage who died not long ago, who is the one that calmed down a lot of what was going on because he decided that that was not the time. Then you have Sheikh Ismail Badran and Sheikh Abdul Rahman al-Shami, who had stayed neutral during the whole Shami crisis, who had said that they're neither with the demonstrators nor are they with the government, but that they don't owe them any allegiance. And because of that, Duma suffered an invasion that caused a lot of tribulations and a lot of difficulty. But this is the way of our elders, standing by the truth. And you won't find anyone else standing by the truth, because you'll find people using, as I said, the hikmah card, that this is an excuse for cowardice, to remain a coward and stay behind and to not do what you're commanded to do. And so they will use this as a way to say that hikmah means that I don't stand for anything, that hikmah means that I stand by idly and just let things happen. Because what happens if I get killed? What will happen to the dawah when the dawah precedes you? The dawah is above you. And irrespective of the 300 Marja people that were killed in Iraq by Daesh, the deen continues on in spite of that. The elders continue on in spite of that. But that is neither here nor there, and it's not for me to make those pronouncements. So we'll head back to the Sheikh. The Shaikh Mustafa Hamdu Ulayyan, he says, إقامة الأدلة على رجحان مذهب إمام الملة, establishing the proofs for the preference of the madhab of the Imam of the religion. فهذه رسالة كتبتها قديما لذوي العقول وفيها الأدلة المقنعة على رجحان مذهب الإمام أحمد بن حنبل على غيره من المذاهب وقد رجحت المذهب على غيره من عشرة وجوهية. This message that I wrote some time back was for people of good reflection and intellect, and therein were satisfactory proofs on the praiseworthy nature of the madhab of the Imam Ahmed ibn Hanbal over other than it from the madhabs. I have preferred that madhab over other than it on account of some 10 reasons. الأول أنه قد اجتمع فيه من لم يجتمع في غيره فقد تتلمذ على أبي يوسف وقرأ كتب محمد بن الحسن وتتلمذ على كبار أهل الحديث كابن عيينة ويحيى بن سعيد وعبد الرحمن بن مهدي وعبد الرزاق الصنعاني مع معرفته الفائقة بالحديث وعلله حتى كان يرجع إليه الإمام الشافعي ويسأله. Firstly, there is gathered together in this madhab what has not been gathered together in other than it, because the Imam acted as a student to Abu Yusuf, Yaqub ibn Ibrahim al-Ansari, and he read the books of Muhammad ibn Hassan al-Shaybani. He acted as a student to the senior most scholars of hadith like Sufyan ibn Uyayna, Yahya ibn Sa'id, Abdul Rahman ibn Mahdi, and Abdul Razaq al-Sana'ani of Yemen, with his superior knowledge of the hadith and the defects and other affairs in them, until it became the case that Imam al-Shafi'i turned to him as an authority and asked him questions on the matter. وتتلمذ على الشافعي وأخذ علم الأصول منه مع إمامته في اللغة، فقد كتب منها أكثر مما كتب أبو عمرو، وإمامته في التفسير فقد جمع في التفسير أكثر من 100,000 رواية، وتفرد بقراءة قرآنية كما حكى ابن الجزري. And he acted as a student in the presence of Imam Shafi'i and took the knowledge of usul from him with his imamship in the Arabic language. And he wrote from this matter more than that which was written by Abu Amr. He had his imamship in tafsir, and he gathered together in his tafsir more than 100,000 narratives. And he stood in special rank alone by his Quranic recitation, just as is mentioned by Ibn al-Jazari. مع معرفته باختلاف الناس وفتاوى أبي حنيفة ومالك وثوري وليث بن سعد ومحمد الباقر وجعفر الصادق والشافعي. And this all came with his deep knowledge of the difference of opinion amongst the people. The fatwa of Abu Hanifa, Malik, Sufyan al-Thawri, Layth ibn Sa'ad, Muhammad al-Baqir, Ja'far al-Sadiq, and Muhammad ibn Idris al-Shafi'i. مع استماعه بأئمة التصوف النقي كبشر الحافي ومعروف الكرخي، فجمع الشريعة والطريقة والحقيقة مما زاد مذهبه نورا على النور. And with his gathering, sitting in the gatherings of the Imams of Tasawwuf, that was pure, like Bishr al-Hafi, Ma'ruf al-Qarqi, and he gathered together the revealed law, right action, and the reality of what's in the revealed law from that which increased his madhab to be light upon light. Close quote. Now this is significant because it's saying that he's sitting with the senior-most people of his time in those affairs. Now, Ma'ruf al-Qarqi, and this is a very interesting historical point, the Shatti family, Hassan al-Shatti, going all the way back in lineage, is a direct descendant of Ma'ruf al-Qarqi on his father's side, rahimahullah. So the rank of the Shatti family in Hanbali school is well known. So this is something very useful. You have Hassan al-Shatti, known as Hassan ibn Ma'ruf, right? He is from the lineage on his father's side. Their actual family name is al-Qarqi, but Shatti because they're near the embankment of the beach near Iraq where they are. So this is an important historical note that the big Imam died 1274, the big Marja, he is from that lineage. Now, the Shaikh Mustafa Hamdu Ulayyan goes on to say, quote, وقال عبد الرزاق الصنعاني ما رأيت أحدا أفقه ولا أرعى من أحمد بن حنبل. قال الذهبي في سير معلقا عليه قلت قال هذا وقد رأى مثل ثوري ومالك وابن جريج. Abdul Razak al-San'ani said, I have not seen anyone more knowledgeable than fiqh and more abstentious than Ahmad ibn Hanbal. Al-Dhahabi said in his Siyar Alam al-Nubala, as a footnote on that statement, I would like to say that it should be understood that this was said when this particular Imam had seen Sufyan al-Thawri, Malik ibn Anas ibn Jurayj. وقيل أبو زرعة اختيار أحمد وإسحاق أحبها إليك أم قول الشافعي. قال بل اختيار أحمد في إسحاق ما أعلم أحدا أسود الرأس أفقه من أحمد بن حنبل سير علم النبلاء. It was also said to Abu Zur'a al-Razi in the choice between Ahmed and Ishaq ibn Rahawayh on one side, or the statement of Imam al-Shafi'i as a statement that you prefer. Abu Zur'a al-Razi said, indeed, I prefer the statement of Ahmed ibn Ishaq ibn Rahawayh. And there is no one more knowledgeable that has a head full of black hair in fiqh than Ahmad ibn Hanbal. This is mentioned in Siyar A'lam al-Nuwala. وقال سيدنا الإمام الشافعي رضي الله عنه خرجت من بغداد وما خلفت بها أحدا أورع وأتقى ولا أفقه ولا أعلم من أحمد بن حنبل. وقد ثبت أنه قال لأحمد يا أبا عبد الله إذا صح عندكم الحديث فعلمني به فأذهب إليه حجازيا كان أو شاميا أو عراقيا أو يمنيا. وقال عبد الرحمن بن أبي حاتم سمعت أبي يقول أحمد بن حنبل أكبر من الشافعي، وكان أحمد بعمر الفهم لمعرفة الحديث بصحيحه وسقيمه، وتعلم الشافعي أشياء من معرفة الحديث منه. وكان الشافعي يقول لي أحمد حديث كذا وكذا قوي الإسناد محفوظ، فإذا قال أحمد نعم جعله أصلا وبنى عليه. It was mentioned by our master, the Imam Shafi'i, may Allah be pleased with him. I left from Baghdad and I did not leave behind anyone therein more abstentious, more pious, and more knowledgeable of fiqh, and more knowledgeable than Ahmad ibn Hanbal. It is also established that he said to Imam Ahmed, Abu Abdillah, when there is a hadith that is authentic to you, fa'allimani bih, then teach it to me, so that it might be brought, whether it's from the Hijaz, Sham, Iraq, or Yemen. Abdurrahman ibn Abi Hatim said, I heard my father saying, Ahmad ibn Hanbal is greater than Imam Shafi'i. And Ahmad, Bari al-Fahm, was deep in understanding ma'rifat al-hadith, of the knowledge of hadith, meaning with regards to what is sahih and what is not. And وَتَعَلَّمَ الشَّافِعِيُّ أَشْيَاءَ مِنْ مَعْرِفَةِ الْحَدِيثِ مِنْهُ. And Imam Shafi'i learned things from the knowledge of hadith and its application from Imam Ahmed. And Imam Shafi'i used to say to Imam Ahmed, the hadith of such and such, is it strong in transmission? Is it preserved? And when the Imam said yes, he made it a principle, an asl, and he built upon it other rulings. قال السفاريني في ثمار منتهى العقول في منتهى النقول للإمام الحافظ جلال الدين السيوطي ما نص. And Imam al-Safarini, in his book, The Fruits of the Highest Boundaries of the Intellects and the furthest boundaries of the texts, by Imam the Hafiz Jalal ad-Din al-Suyuti, in that which is specifically quoted for him. وَالْكُلُّ مِنْ بَعْدِ الْمَحْفُوظِ إِمَامِ أَحْمَدِ بْنِ حَنْبَلْ رَضِيَ اللَّهُ عَنْهُ. And all of what was given was only a part of that which had been memorized by Imam Ahmed ibn Hanbal, may Allah be pleased with him. وذكر غير واحد من الحفاظ منهم ابن حجر العسقلاني أنه لم يحد أحد بسنة المصطفى عليه صلى الله عليه وسلم غير الإمام أحمد بن حنبل. And it's been mentioned by more than one from the Hufaz, from among them Ibn Hajar al-Asqalani, that لم يحد, no one encompassed the sunnah of the chosen one, the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, other than Imam Ahmed ibn Hanbal. وفي التعليق وقد نص الإمام أحمد على أنه لا يجوز لمن لم يحفظ 500,000 حديث أن يفتي، أي الإفتاء المطلق، ونحن نقلد من يحفظ هذا العدد، وهذا غير متوفر عند غيرنا من المقلدين لأن أئمتهم لا يحفظون مثل هذا العدد. I'd like to mention that it was explicitly stated by the Imam Ahmed that it's not permissible for whoever has not memorized 500,000 ahadith to give fatwa. By fatwa we mean fatwa mutlaq, the absolute fatwa. And we make taqleed of whoever has memorized this amount. And this is not well known and abundant to other than us from the muqallid people, because their imams have not memorized the likeness of this number of ahadith from the other madhabs. Close quote. So I'd like to stop here and let us reflect on what's been stated. And as we said, the Sheikh is going to give some 10 points on why he stayed established upon the school of Imam Ahmed and what that means and the ramifications of that. And inshallah, that's going to take us to our second unit regarding Imam Ahmed and da'wah, his theology and da'wah, because he is the last of the first three generations. And by following his example, so the Prophet ﷺ, the companions, the followers of followers, what ends with him, you cannot be on further and you cannot be on stronger ground than that. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to make us among those who follow the first three generations, to protect us from evil intentions, bad outcomes, debates, time wasting on matters that cannot help us. And we ask that we adhere strictly to the first three generations from Ahmed to Ahmed. There is no one quite like Ahmed. وصلى الله وسلم وبارك على سيدنا ونبينا ورسولنا محمد بن عبد الله وعلى آله وأصحابه وسلم أجمعين يا أرحم الراحمين. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك وأشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليك إنه غفور رحيم حميد رحيم ولا إله إلا الله. والسلام عليكم.